Live from KTOO Public Media in Juneau, we present special Gavel, Alaska coverage of Governor Mike Dunleavy's first State of the State address. I'm Jeremy Shea.
And I'm Jennifer Pemberton.
Governor Mike Dunleavy will be headed into the chambers of the Alaska House of Representatives shortly to deliver his speech. We can see him making his way down the hall into the chambers right now, actually, being escorted by Senator David Wilson and Juneau Representative Sarah Hannon. They're just making their way into the chambers right now.
Will the joint session please come back to order?
That's Senator Kathy Giesel.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor of the great state of Alaska, the Honorable Michael J. Dunleavy.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you. It's a different view from here. When I used to sit there and look this way, but it's good to see everybody. So thanks everyone for your gracious welcome. I truly appreciate it. It's been just over 7 weeks since I took the oath of office to become the 12th governor in the history of our young state. I'm here today because of the people of Alaska who put their faith in me and in my vision for our great state. Too often, leaders seem to forget a simple truth. Government gets all of its authority from the people. The court system has no power except what the people give. The legislature has no power except what the people give. The governor has no power either except what you, the people, give. And this evening, as I stand before the people of Alaska, delivering my first State of the State address, I reflect upon where we are as a state, the opportunity before us, and what this point in history means for Alaska. Before I continue, I'd like to take a moment and introduce my members of my administration. I'd ask them all to stand. Thank you all very much. And now I'd like to introduce someone who is very special to me, my wife of 31 years, the First Lady Rose Dunleavy. Thanks for being here, Rose. Rose is from Northwest Alaska, and we were married in the wonderful city of Nome. We have 3 independent, free-spirited, and very self-reliant daughters, Maggie, Catherine, and Seal Ann, who all love Alaska as much as we do. Like many Alaskans, I enjoy the outdoors, hunting and fishing, and the boundless adventures and opportunities our great state has to offer. I'm a man who chose education as a career because I love helping kids, and I love learning and teaching. You know, I'm not a career politician. I've only been in politics for 8 short years, 3 of those as a school board member and 5 years as a state senator. I've always wanted to help. This is why I went into politics. Last year, I followed my heart and my gut, and I decided in order to change the course of our great state that I'd run for governor. And so I did. And then I was elected. So how did this retired teacher get elected governor? Was it my social graces and charm? Not really. If you'd ask me, I'd say the other candidates were much better connected in the social circles, better looking and far more charming. I see some heads nodding. Was it my eloquent speeches or my debating skills? Not really. If you'd ask me, I'd say all the other candidates were much better debaters. Was it because I was the tallest? Well, I do stand out in a crowd a bit, but I don't think that was it either. I'm governor today because of the campaign promises I made to the people of Alaska on the issues most of us believe in. I'm here to do exactly what I promised to do. what I told Alaskans I would do. So here it is. Number one, we're going to declare war on criminals. We're going to get our spending in line with our revenue. This has to be done. We're going to protect Alaska's PFDs. We're going to grow our economy and put Alaskans back to work. And finally, we must restore public trust in government and elected officials. That's what my plan was last year, and that's my plan now. But before I could be sworn in, our world shook. As we know, the second most damaging earthquake in Alaska's history struck South Central Alaska on November 30th, 2018, with over $100 million in damages. Within hours of the quake, I was down at the estate's Emergency Operations Center assessing the situation. I want to take a moment and thank Governor Walker for working with my team during this process. Last month, I met with President Trump and had the opportunity to brief him on the earthquake damage and recovery efforts. The President confirmed their strong support, and the congressional delegation and I will work together to hold the federal government to its commitment. This is an example of Alaskans coming together to solve significant problems. We all feel a deep sense of gratitude to the men and women who served as emergency responders. They are Alaskan heroes. There are countless examples of Alaskans who made us proud. Hospital employees were ready to treat the injured. School teachers kept kids safe and evacuated them from unsafe buildings. And contractors rushed to repair damage to roads and buildings in record time. Neighbors helping neighbors, that's what Alaska is all about. A perfect example of this are two middle schoolers we have with us today, Tor Peterson and Kiana Marquis. For them, it started out like any other day, and then it hit. When the quake struck and their school began to shake violently, they knew this was serious. Relying on what Tor was taught by his amazing teachers, he immediately sought safety. But he soon realized one of his classmates needed help. Putting his own safety aside, Tor proceeded to do what heroes do. He took immediate action, grabbed hold of Kiana, and led her to the safest part of the room. I would ask Tor and Kiana to please stand at this moment and be recognized. You two exemplify what the spirit of Alaska is all about. I want to thank you both for reminding us that in a time of crisis, how good all of us can be to each other. That day, Alaskans demonstrated to the world our resiliency. Alaskans were at their finest, a perfect example that together we can overcome anything. That together we will make our streets safe again. That together we will build a permanent fiscal plan. That together we will protect the PFD for generations to come. That together we can grow our economy and put Alaskans back to work. And finally, that together we will restore the trust of the Alaskan people in its government and its elected officials. I promised during the campaign to follow the law on the PFD, and that's exactly what we should do. Alaskans' PFDs should be paid in full using the law that has worked for decades, and that the PFD should be protected in the Constitution now and for the future. Last week, I introduced two bills for the back pay owed to Alaskans on their PFDs. I urge you to act swiftly on those bills. Every penny of that PFD money due Alaskans is sitting in the Earnings Reserve account and is available for distribution. Let's act now and put this issue behind us once and for all. Now let's talk about creating a real honest budget. Alaskans believe our state budget process is a mess. There is simply no other way to describe it. Why is it a mess? Because our government spending far exceeds the revenues we take in. Kicking the can down the road for years, wiping out billions from savings, and then taxing the PFD, and all the while just hoping for another oil boom, it simply doesn't work. The days of creating a wish list budget where Alaska is more like a reality show, make a wish, have your dream come true, that just isn't real life. Where anything and everything is just too important not to fund, and where politicians spend their time looking for ways for you to pay for it. Those days have got to be over. We can no longer spend what we don't have. We are now preparing a budget that for the first time all Alaskans will be able to understand and trust. No more games, no more shuffling numbers, just an honest, straightforward look at where we are. While no one person is to blame, Alaskans will quickly see that we've been spending wildly beyond our means for years. Our children and grandchildren deserve better. In order to get a handle on the budget, one of my first administrative orders was to centralize the budget-making functions of all departments under the Office of Management and Budget. My administration will be focused on the basic functions of government while realigning programs and operations to eliminate duplication and prioritize each agency's core mission. My first budget is going to be an honest budget. As I promised the people, we must start from the standpoint that expenditures must equal revenue. We can't go on forever using savings to plug the gap. But that's only part of the solution. In order to address the fiscal issues that have plagued our state for years, we need a permanent fiscal plan, a plan that will put our state on solid footing for decades to come. To be fair, this isn't a new struggle for our state. We've struggled with this before. When Alaska first became flush with oil money from Prudhoe Bay, many were focused on spending as much money as possible. However, there were some in the legislature, even back then, who were concerned about where we were headed. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Dick Randolph from Fairbanks. Dick is a former teacher and insurance agent and retired legislator, who in the late 70s and early 80s had the foresight to understand that the people of Alaska, through constitutional amendments and the initiative process, could help us control our spending and develop a sustainable fiscal plan. Enlightened legislators such as Representative Randolph, trusting the people of Alaska, put forth a number of constitutional amendments, including the permanent fund, to try and bring order to the spending mania. Representative Randolph, please stand. I want to thank you for your foresight and wisdom, coupled with the belief that the people, individual Alaskans, through constitutional amendments, are the key to securing Alaska's future. Thank you, Dick, very much. And for those of us in the room today, we have an opportunity to work together and complete the process. Those enlightened legislators started many decades ago. Therefore, next week, I'll introduce 3 constitutional amendments, which will be the foundation for a permanent fiscal plan. If we wish to win the people's trust, we must trust the people. The fiscal plan, empowered by the people, for the people. So first, a spending limit and savings plan that will keep politicians from spending every penny we have. One that allows us to save excess revenue when possible for future Alaskans. Second, there should be no change to the PFD without a vote of the people. And the third constitutional amendment will call for no change in taxes without a vote of the people as well. These 3 constitutional amendments will require that both the people of Alaska and their elected officials work closely together to secure our future. The people are the key to a permanent fiscal plan. Without the people's support, any plan put in place by the legislature will always be in doubt. Another key component in securing Alaska's future are investments in jobs. Politicians often talk about policies and laws, but what Alaskans really care about are jobs, opportunities, and individual freedoms. With jobs comes independence, self-reliance, self-respect, thriving communities, and hope for the future. There's no doubt our economy is struggling. There's no doubt when people don't have opportunity, hope fades. While the rest of the country's economy has been booming for years, Alaska remains mired in recession with the worst unemployment rate in the nation. Let that sink in for a moment. I'll be a relentless advocate for turning this around. I've said that we're going to make Alaska open for business, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We often talk about diversifying the economy. The irony is, years ago, some would say, Alaska had more of a diversified economy than we do today. We had more Alaskans engaged in commercial fishing, mining, agriculture, and we once had a robust timber industry. However, since Prudhoe Bay came online, we've become more narrowly focused on oil and government programs as the basis for our economy, while neglecting other opportunities that could create more jobs and wealth for our state. For Alaska to fully realize our potential, including our location on the globe, our vast resources, and our unbridled quality of life, we must look to other industries and investment to come to Alaska. As a result, we have put together a team that will market Alaska to the world, a team of experts with backgrounds in finance, marketing, and research that will inform investors, industries, and individuals that Alaska is open for business and we want new business here. That our location on the globe is a distinct advantage. That the third busiest cargo hub in the world is also an advantage to doing business here in Alaska. That our proximity to Asia and Europe is also an advantage. That our quality of life is a distinct advantage as well. Alaska just doesn't have to be a resource state. We have so much more to offer. It's my goal to be able to report to you in the near future about all of the new industries coming to Alaska because of these efforts. For those that have little hope that Alaska can diversify its economy, we need only to look to two small Alaskan companies that through good old-fashioned capitalism and entrepreneurship created thriving businesses right here in our state. One of these businesses, Trivarius, is located in Palmer and owned by Hans Vogel. His company was awarded a contract by the Department of Defense for a machine that cleans the decks of the entire U.S. aircraft carrier fleet. These machines are designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in Alaska and shipped all over the world. He does this with no tax credits and no subsidies from the state. I repeat, no tax credits and no subsidies from the state. Another company thriving here in Alaska is Bambinos baby food, owned by Zoe Marutis. She noticed customers were not happy with the quality of baby food available, and Zoe responded. She started the company right here in Alaska and now employs 25 Alaskans. By the end of this month, she plans to begin exporting to Asia. This is what I'm talking about. This is the future of Alaska. Zoe and Hans, you both demonstrate to all of us that there are boundless opportunities for Alaska to diversify its economy. Zoe's in the gallery tonight, and I would ask her to stand. Zoe? I want to thank Zoe and Hans. Hans couldn't make it. He was diverted to Sitka and ended up going back to Anchorage. We have a bit of a weather problem sometimes here in Alaska. But I want to thank both Zoe and Hans for the example that you've set for Alaska. While all of these initiatives I've presented so far are critical to securing Alaska's future, in the end, our primary responsibility and the most important thing a government can do is keeping its citizens safe. We know crime is out of control. Everyone in this room has either been affected by crime or knows someone who has. And when it comes to sexual assault, Alaska stands alone. Our sexual assault rate is the highest in the nation. To put this in perspective, New York City has a sexual assault rate of about 28 incidences per 100,000 people. Compare this to Anchorage, which has a sexual assault rate of 132 cases per 100,000 people. That's almost 5 times that of New York City. Let that sink in. This is an outrage, plain and simple. The women and children of Alaska must be made safe, and we have an obligation, all of us in this room, to do everything we possibly can to stop this scourge in Alaska. We can no longer stand by and allow this to be the reality that faces Alaskans every day. In addition to sexual assault, our murder rate is horrific. Tonight, I'd like to recognize 2 Alaskan families that know firsthand the personal devastation that comes from violent crime. Edie and Ben Grunwald from Palmer, who lost their son David, and Scotty and Aaliyah Barr from Kotzebue, who lost a daughter and a sister, Ashley. Unfortunately, we all know their tragic stories too well. 2 beautiful young Alaskans taken from their families by individuals who have no regard for human life. Scotty and Aaliyah Barr are here with us tonight. I would ask them both to stand, please. The Grunwalds would also be here tonight, but they too were caught in the flyover and couldn't land. They wanted to be here to show support to the Barr family as well. I want to thank you for having the strength to be here tonight. I speak for all of Alaskans here today, every Alaskan. We are heartbroken and mourn with you over this senseless loss. Nobody should have to go through the devastation and pain you've endured. But know this, the loss of Ashley and David has mobilized Alaska. Your loss is going to be the catalyst that will push us forward into a safer Alaska. And I say to you and to everyone, today begins a new day in our state. From this day forward, we will not cater to the criminals and ignore the victims. We will not make excuses and turn a blind eye. I ask everyone in this room tonight and across Alaska to join in making Alaska the safest state in the country. There is a lot that government should not do, or cannot do, or does not do well. But the most important thing a government must do is keep its people safe. History will judge those of us in this room tonight on how we respond to this crisis. At what point do we say enough is enough? I say the time is now. Therefore, we will expend the necessary resources for additional state troopers, provide more local control, and more prosecutors. We will ensure that our courts will remain open 5 full days a week in order to hear cases. We will provide the focus and the resources necessary to combat the scourge of opiates and other illicit drugs driving up our crime rates and ruining lives. And we will repeal and replace SB 91. A series of bills and initiatives that will be introduced tomorrow will not only roll back SB 91, but will help Alaskans turn the corner to a safer tomorrow. To our legislators, I'm asking you to make public safety a priority and move forward with due diligence on reviewing and considering this public safety package. To law-abiding Alaskans, I say this to you. I care if your house is burglarized. I care if your car is stolen. And I care if your loved ones are threatened. But to the criminals and to the rapists and molesters who see our children as nothing more than opportunities, I say this to you. We will do everything in our power to stop you, apprehend you, and put you in prison for a very long time. For those Alaskans who have made a mistake and have gotten involved with opiates or other drugs and want help, we are a compassionate people as well. Therefore, as part of our public safety approach, we will provide ways for you to break this habit and get back into society and be productive individuals. But let me be perfectly clear. If you are a criminal, this is going to be a very dangerous place for you starting now. I suggest you get out while you can. No more coddling. No more excuses. Your days are over. I'm going to go to great lengths to make sure we are safer, and you'll see that reflected in my budget as well. With SB 91, we broke the people's trust, and now is the time to restore it. By doing the right things, we can fix what is broken and restore the trust that was lost. I'm here to serve the people of Alaska. I'm here to work with you, the legislature. I'm here because, like all of you, I believe in this great state. I'm here tonight because Alaskans want to chart a different course. I've made promises that I intend to keep. We're all part of the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world, a government by the people, for the people, and of the people. As for me, that in part means this, that all the special interests, all the political insiders, all those used to manipulating government and policy for their own benefit, this is just not your time. I promise you what I promised during the campaign. Things will be different. Things will be very different. We are tasked with righting the wrongs that have broken the trust of the Alaskan people. And I'll work with all my energy, dedication, and ability to do exactly what I promised you I would do. I look forward to working with each and every one of you in this room No more of the tired old approaches. We must reduce senseless crime. We must balance our budget. We must protect the PFD. We must grow our economy, put Alaskans back to work. And by doing this, the Alaskan people will once again trust their leaders. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Alaska. Thank you.
That was Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy's 2019 State of the State address, live from the state capitol in Juneau. And I'm here with Jennifer Pemberton. Jennifer, do you have any quick takeaways or things? This is your first State of the State that you've been following, right?
Yes, it is. It went by a little faster than I thought. It was a little bit shorter, I guess, than I expected. But a few things did stand out to me. He opened with this line of declaring war on criminals and then ended, of course, with public safety as a priority, and that included some specific action items like repealing and replacing SB 91.
Yeah. So I think this is my 10th State of the State that I've been following closely. And yeah, I would agree. It was on the brief side. You started a little bit after 7 o'clock. It's about 7:26 now, so maybe 25 minutes. Seemed to be just zooming through his script. But yeah, of some of the specifics he mentioned, a war on criminals, kind of real strong language about crime, and that took up a big bulk of his speech. He mentioned delivering a real honest budget. That's kind of the line he used, and had a kind of bold claim about that. He said it would be a budget that all Alaskans will be able to understand. And that, it's not a numbers thing, but that's a big ask. Budgets are difficult things to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. It struck me as a important line. I wasn't sure how he's going to follow up on that.
But one of his other big assertions there was that they would repeal SB 91. And you talked to one of our reporters a little bit about what that entails, what that means, right?
I did this afternoon in order to get some context for the governor's remark. I talked to Andrew Kitchenman. He's our state government reporter, thinking that some of the governor's campaign promises would likely become priorities for the session. And one of those he talked a lot about on the campaign trail was SB 91. And so I asked Andrew about that.
So I think Senate Bill 91 repeal will be a big part of what he has to say. Just real briefly, Senate Bill 91 was the 2016 law that basically lessened some criminal sentences. And really from the day it was passed, police were really opposed to it. And as the crime rate soared along with the opioid epidemic in the state, that prompted a big public outcry against the bill, and that's just continued on for the 2.5 years since then. The legislature's actually made two major revisions to it, but that hasn't really lessened the ability of politicians to raise it as an issue with constituents, and for constituents to raise it as an issue with their elected officials. So it's gotten super complicated because everyone says there are elements of SB 91 that they want to keep in state law, and there are elements of SB 91 that may not poll well, but which have some evidence that they may be effective public policy. So there's going to be an interesting debate this year, but I expect Governor Dunleavy to talk about repealing Senate Bill 91.
And we've seen that a few of his invited guests are victims of some big crimes that have happened in the state recently. So that leads me to believe that we're safe in guessing that might come up tonight.
Yeah, we're going to see the parents of Ashley Johnson Barr, the 10-year-old Kotzebue resident who was murdered last year, and also Edie Grunwald, who was just named to a senior position handling overseeing parole in the state, and was a candidate for lieutenant governor. Her and her husband's 16-year-old child was murdered a couple of years ago. And so that just their presence in the gallery will give you a sense as to how important this is for the governor.
Again, that was Alaska Public Media and KTOO state government reporter Andrew Kitchenman. I talked with him earlier today about what the governor's priorities might be, what we might expect to hear tonight, and turns out he was right.
Right. And so one of the other solid announcements that Governor Dunleavy made was that he would introduce 3 constitutional amendments coming up. And the substance of those is the first is a spending limit and savings plan that will keep politicians from spending every penny the state has, his words. The second one was there would be no change to the PFD, permanent fund dividend, without a vote of the people. The third was a constitutional amendment to call for no change in taxes without a vote of the people. We're going to wrap up now. This has been special coverage of Governor Mike Dunleavy's 2019 State of the State Address. From KTOO in Juneau, I'm Jeremy Shea.
And I'm Jennifer Pemberton. Thanks for joining us tonight.